Good evening and welcome to tonight's Monday Live, joined by Matt Williams from up in the putting studio. He's made his way downstairs and going to cover all your putting woes and needs tonight, because there are going to be lots of them. Sure, there are going to be lots of them tonight. We're really getting to golf season now, aren't we? Riviera kind of seems to kick it off for me, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of the bigger events outside of the majors. Obviously, you've got the waste management and then players, but Riviera's a big one. Yeah. It's an annual event that a lot of players want to perform well at. And
Tiger hosting.
Yeah,
kind of feels bigger just for that.
Yeah, and it's a notable venue on tour.
It's one you'd want. It's on your bucket list, isn't it?
It's got to be.
Yeah, and it's just a shame it's for us over here. It's just on the west coast because it can't stay up that long.
it's a bit of a further jaunt than maybe most would want.
Yeah.
So,
but what a finish! I think you got Rory charging, Bridgman faltering a little bit. I love the way he said that he couldn't feel his hands the last two holes. Just kind of hope that he could just
get it done,
kind of duff it up there somewhere close and get it done. But hold a good putt in the last to get over the line. Which actually, when you've had a wobble, you hold a good putt for a bogey 16, and then got the three-footer in on 18.
What a first venue to get your first PJ Tour win.
Yeah. Scott chasing you down as well.
Yeah, McIlroy, obviously he let a few putts slip by, but he held a great putt on the last to give himself half a chance. And Kurt Kitayama still up there as well, kind of flying under the radar.
He's been steady. I remember when he was over on DP World Tour, he was a solid performer, and actually when the tournament was on the line, he never backed off it. He was always there.
I think that's his mentality. Down. I think he said that in the past, that he's not playing with regrets. If he's going to go for it, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it's a bold move. He's not a household name, but he's an established player now. And I think when he went through the college program, I think the college he went to, that's their approach as well. Right. So there's a couple other guys that have come out of UNLV, Las Vegas. They all have the same sort of approach. So I think that might be...
Stuffy, you'd call them.
That might be their approach to playing, and it seems to be working for him at the minute.
And win for Mystical in Thailand, home tournament. Come on, 24 under for 4 rounds anyway is great.
Yeah, 4 under in the final round, so 20 under in the first 3. I mean, that's some serious golf.
And a bit of a fiddly course. They were seeing her interviewed on the Friday. I think it was sort of timings Friday or Saturday, and they were saying exactly that, saying coming out on a course that's narrow, that's kind of more positional, that actually kind of shows her how good her game's in, the kind of condition it's in leading to the start of the season.
Yeah, it's any event at the start of the season, you want to be tested. You want to see where your game's at, and you don't want to get caught out with your trousers down a third of the way into the year. You want to know early doors if you need to work on something, what do you want to work on, and it's one of those venues that does that. Clearly, nothing really that she's faltering on. That said, the rest of the field weren't that far behind her. So
you've got some big names already winning. Charlie winning, Nellie's already won. Mythical's already won. I can't remember her first name, which is why I'm calling him Mythical. Actually, the big players are all kind of vying for it at the moment. So could be a ripper of a season.
Definitely, especially when you start looking at the majors come May time. So I think the ladies' majors are a touch later than the men's, from memory.
Yeah, they're then kind of
condensed
together because there are 5 of them, 5 or 6 of them. I think.
So it's one of those that I think it'll be interesting to see how that pans out and maybe who travels well. The events are a little bit more spaced out as well.
They do a lot of global, actually, don't they? And then Callum Jarvis, South Africa winning in Kenya. Again, just strong scoring this week all around in the 20s under par. I always think that the Kenyan Open, I remember a few years back, whether it's the same course, but they were literally having to dodge the zebras. I think playing giraffe and baboons running the fairway.
Was that when Luke Donalds got caught? There was like a 2 or 3 baboons jumping up the fairway and he had to run out the way. I think that was that, wasn't it? So
always that's a bit of fun.
And there was a nice homegrown story around there as well. There was a Kenyan lad who eagled the last, I think it was, to make the cut. And it's like, it's nice to get the local invites. They're still holding their own as well.
So it's actually the development that's there, and the fact that they're making cuts, they're not just there making up numbers, they're actually there for the weekend, which I think is great. And it shows actually the value of taking those tournaments there. I think that's something that with golf as it is now, I think we're still debating where's it going to end up, who knows, but actually the responsibility on the game to take the top players to these places, it inspires youngsters to play, and actually giving people a platform to go and play on and experience it is so invaluable. I think Yeah, that to me is a bit that my 2 pence with. I think globally, it should be more global, and all credit to them for going to Kenya so regularly. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Right. I've got a question on my phone that I'll tend to shortly, but we will get straight into it because there are a lot of you on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's quite a few questions coming in. So, first question, evening, Simon. Could you demo the KBS Lite and the KBS Tour? Thanks. That's from Kev T6784.
So I'll get the stiff in both because there is quite a weight difference. So as I'm getting those, Kev, if you can let me know which flexes, if there is a specific flex you want me to get, I'll grab those two and just send that one in.
No problem. I'm going to see, there's a couple questions regarding putters, which are more specific to me. So I'm going to have a quick look at those while Simon's doing that. Ian Limfoot 2563. What putter has the highest MOI? Companies don't seem to display the number anymore. Can't find a higher MOI than 2013 Daddy Longlegs from TaylorMade.
Was that the Brian Harmon one?
Yeah, big spaceship of a thing. Some proper real estate that was. MOI, I mean, Even Roll have got the I want to get this right because there's a few letters and numbers to this. ER11 VX, I want to say. Really high MOI. Again, they don't put the numbers on it, so we don't know for certain, but it's definitely marketed as the high MOI option. Very similar looking to a Spider, visually.
Yep.
Shape-wise, weight positioning, it's very similar to a Spider.
We've done one in the past, James has it, that's even what is called Starship Enterprise. That it's got two kind of big kind of tungsten bars down the sides, and it's about that big. And it's made him, ER10, is it? But it's made him really good from distance, so it shows how much he used to miss his putts from yardage before.
There you go. Obviously,
doesn't three putt very often. It's a shame,
MOI and putting's not been talked about as much, mostly since the zero torque concept, which has been around for a while now. Everyone thinks it's still pretty new, but it's been around for a good 6-7 years.
Yeah.
In fact, the original lab was about 10 years ago, I think, maybe more.
So Seymour's that have been around for a long time.
Seymour's been around for a long time. They haven't really, they've been centre shafted, maybe not quite zero torque, but. Yeah, that's been the moving point within the industry rather than MOI. But which shaft have you got in there first?
I'll go KBS Tour Light first. So one of the main differences, so KBS Tour Light in the stiff is a 100-gram shaft. In the standard KBS Tour is 120-gram shaft. So there's quite a big difference in weight. Relative balance point is very similar. It's very, very middle of the shaft. So ultimately, with the KBS Tour Light, at this sort of weight, I'm taking on quite a shot to the 18th green at Palm Beach, where they're going to be playing this week. So essentially, that dead weight being down allows me to be a little quieter, and I just don't have to work as hard to move it through. It gives a little bit more kick through the tip of the shaft, like up a little bit more. In principle, being lighter, it's softer tip, and it's going to get it airborne a little bit more. That you definitely get a bit of kick through the bottom. However, that only works for you if 100 grams is the right weight for you. So, okay, good. That was a good guess. So if we're looking at flights, it's just under 4.9 on spin, and I will have a look at launch. I'm just going to change that tile to...
I mean, that was struck well.
Yeah, not bad, actually. Yeah, considering. Where's the launch angle? Loft. Too many tiles on here. I launch, there we go, 15.9. So, basically 16 launch, 4.9 on spin. That's with the KBS Tour Light. I've now got the KBS Tour, 120 grams, so a lot more dead weight. So really, it works for someone who's got a little bit more of a pull onto it. The KBS Tours are not tip heavy. Any of the Tour series, Tour V, Tour Light, they're pretty neutrally weighted. Tour V is just a stiffer tip at the lighter weight to keep flight the same. But this suits someone who's a bit more aggressive, so a little bit more. I've got to fetch it a little bit more from the top. I've got to work harder to deliver it. But as long as you're not someone who's overly flippy with your hands, that was all right. It's something that suits more of a body rotation player generally, but in terms of launch and spin, 15, 7, 4, 9. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the person is what controls the flight more than the shaft is going to change it. It's just about timing. So either the 100-gram weight suits you more or the 120-gram weight suits you more, but they're actually really comparable within profiles and balance profiles, but just at very different weights.
There we are. Right, regular to the channel, Daniel Winterbottom 5531. Hi, love the Monday live.
Thank you very much.
If I moved from tall velvet +4 to mid-size tall velvet +4, how much weight would I have to add to the head? Also, how much is a drastic change going from Modus 130 to Axiom 105, same swing weight?
Oh, okay. Well, the second bit, easy, very. You're going from a 125 gram shaft. Ironically, the Modus 130 is 125. Not particularly tip heavy, tip responsive. You're going then to a 105 grams, so 20 grams lighter, but stable tip balance. So they all swing even at the same. So this is one of the things with swing weight. Swing weight is a static balance around a 15-inch fulcrum. It does not tell you. It is not a kind of a rule for how the club is going to swing from a balance point of view. Because case in point, you could have two clubs at D2. One's got 50 gram shaft. One's got 130 gram shaft, and they are going to move totally different because the static balance around that fulcrum doesn't give you any hint as to how the club swings. Or you could add a 100 gram grip on and then add another 15, 20 grams in the head, and all you've done is bookend the weight, but the swing weight's the same. So essentially, swing weight is a start point, but if you've changed the shaft weight that much and the balance point that much, it's going to be a totally different club. The grip question, you're going to a tall velvet +4 mid-size, it's about a 66 gram grip, and the standard one's sort of 55, 56. So you've got 10 grams more in the grip, you're going to have to add between 3 and 5 grams to the head. So you've put 15 grams in the club straight away, it will feel pretty different, and for a lot of players, that amount of dead weight gain hurts timing. So just be careful about that.
Wonderful. Shako79, got a few questions from Shako. Good evening, love the show. Is there any difference between the QI4D versus the QI35 core model fairways besides flatter lie angle on the QI4D?
Yeah.
Did like the performance from the 35, but did not like the colour.
So the 35 is a really good head, but where we're seeing really good results out of the 4D is low on the face. So ball speed maintenance across the face, particularly low, really very impressive. Potentially it's a little bit stronger on spin than QI35, but that's possibly also through the CG being a little bit lower, so therefore getting effective strike point up the face a little bit more and gearing spin off. But the 4D has been, I'm going to predict now that'll be our best selling fairway with this year. Really strong. So if you like the 35, just didn't like the colour and prefer the visuals on the 4D is definitely a little bit of an upgrade, low on the face in particular versus the 35. Very impressive fairway we've had this year.
Next question from Shako. Any experience now with the UST paracore shafts? How do they compare to the Ventus line? Which one will be closest to the TR Blue 5S? So
been in contact with them, just working out, actually waiting to hear back for them to work out timings to get them in. But the white is going to be the closest to the TR in terms of that's the most stable profile, but in terms of how they swing, it may not be comparable. The new TR swing differently to the old TR. So the new TR Blue. Yeah, new TR Blue swings more tip heavy. You feel a bit more kick out the middle, but it's got quite a kind of heavy hit to it. Whereas first gen TR was more, it felt more kind of handle to midsection stiff, but swung less heavy in the tip end. So how the 9Q is going to compare to that, I'm not 100% sure. But the white profile being the most stable will in principle match to that the best.
And then following on from that, which TPT shaft compares to the TR Blue 5S?
So TR Blue 5S, so that's just that's sort of pretty much on just on the 60 gram mark. Actually, so for the TR, the stability all the way through, I would say the Nitro low, and I can't remember whether it's the 17 or 18. There's one that's bang on 60 grams because the numbers, the weights differ between the red range, the power range, and the Nitro. There's one bang on 60 grams, it'll be that one, but the Nitro is going to be dearer.
Any idea how much?
Nitro's retail over here for around the £600 mark. The Ventus is going to be 350, 370, that kind of ballpark. So it is.
There's a big difference.
There is a notable difference. The TPTs are made differently. They are the single piece rolled rather than multi-layer construction. Really, really high grade. Developed off kind of lightweight, high-end composite materials used in aerospace, F1, things like that. So they're super, super high-end in terms of materials. Not that the Ventuses aren't, but the TPTs just sit that little bit higher price point-wise. So the red range are a similar price point to the Ventuses, maybe a hair less, power range. But the Nitros, are that little bit higher. They're slightly lighter than the power range relative to the number on them, but they're stiffer as a profile. So they've gone lighter but more stable.
Okay. Worth trying them. Around with Jerry. Hi, which Oban...
That would be nice.
yeah.
Where do you play, Jerry?
Where are you inviting us to? Hi, which Oban Kyoshi shaft is most similar to Kylie White? Many thanks.
So if you're in... So the Kyoshis... So it would be the white or the black, essentially, the short answer. The Kyoshis, relative to the kind of number on them, play heavier, so swing heavier. So the white and the black in the 60s are pretty much bang on 70 grams. So you'd probably find the Kylie White, if you're in the Kylie White 60, that's like a 64, 65 gram, and you're looking a good 5 or 6 grams heavier. Like the X-Flex, for example, in the white is 72 grams. Whereas the Kylie White in the 70s is going to be more like 75, 76. So the Obans, both the black and the white, sit kind of in the 6s, sit pretty much on the 70 gram mark. So they'll split the difference in weight. The black swings more tip heavy, and in theory is designed around a lower launch. So the white is probably the closest in terms of overall profile. In theory, more responsive tip, but they play really stout. But the weights will sit in between those of the Kylie Whites.
Superb. Chase King 4349. This is a great question. It's
about putting.
No, it's not. No, that's why it's a great question. 4 hybrid versus 7 wood.
Okay.
Does one have more options or versatility than the other, in your opinion? Cheers. And a couple of beers on the end of that. That could come in handy later.
Does one have more versatility? So essentially, the more height and stopping power you're looking for, you go towards the wood. So at the same loft, the deeper the weight sit, the wood, basically the CG sits a little bit lower, gets under the ball more, and flights it up more. So if you're looking to max out height and stopping power, then you're going towards a 7 wood. If you want it to play more like an extension, if you're someone who covers it and traps it, then a 7 wood's likely to flare up in terms of spin. So the hybrid tends to work better. Or if you're trying to keep the top of the flight down a little bit more and produce a slightly stronger flight, then the hybrid's going to give you that. Hybrid-wise, you're probably going to find a more versatility in head styles to dial in launch and spin. With 7 woods, there are some things like the Callaway, the Triple Diamond, or some of the LS models are available in 7 woods now, which is helping. But generally, you're going to be spinning those a little bit more than most hybrids. And the fairway wood, if you pick it, then the fairway wood's a great option. Or if you're low spin, if you trap it, then the hybrid's probably the better option. We're doing more 7 woods than ever, though. So
I think that's across the board. Most people are. Nick Houston, 1996. Hi, great show.
At least it's last century. That makes me feel better.
Coming up to 30 this year, if you're not already. Unlucky. What is your opinion on the KBS TD shafts?
The wood shafts are an interesting one. We don't do an awful lot of them. I think that was their kind of first foray into the sort of the premium wood end. Actually, I think with the new Black Series coming out, we will probably phase those out in favour of the new option. So Matt was given a prototype of that shaft to test, and really actually very, very impressed with it. And considering, so Matt, as in Matt Hyatt, who's
not me,
the old gorilla who, I mean, you're not exactly short, but he's even longer.
Yeah.
And actually, in terms of spin consistency, it was really impressive. So I think we're going to transition out of the TDs into that new black shaft. Because I think the TDs have been a little bit mercurial. When they've worked really well, but they tend to be really good or really not work. And I think they just not as versatile a shaft. They just don't seem to, there's not a load of feel out of them. And I think that was something where, for someone who was more of a hitter, that was kind of okay, but they just didn't seem to work as often as thought they would. Whereas the new one, we'll definitely be getting those in as soon as they're available. We're trying to find out exact specs on them, which they're not overly forthcoming with for weights and things. But Yeah, I think they're good quality materials. I just wonder whether they're a little bit particular as a profile, which is why they haven't quite caught as often. The 40 has been really good actually at a lightweight, but yeah, the others haven't quite caught.
Shame. Oh, I don't want to say this wrong. Just, hopefully I've said that right. Hi, gents. Really enjoy your content.
Thank you.
What are your thoughts on fitting someone into clubs that they can grow into, i.e. something they will not be limited to in 1 to 2 years, as strike and consistency improve?
So the 1 to 2 years bit's the interesting bit. I would say it's perfectly doable to pitch a fitting based on someone's better swings and to have some growth into them, because you're going to be looking at the stronger moves, the better timed swings. But you've, as a player being fitted, if you want the fitter to pitch it ahead, you've got to be prepared for that initial period to be hard work, because it's got to challenge you enough to last. If you are working a game and developing it, then it's got to be far enough in front to punish you a little bit if you don't quite get it right, but then to be, rather than your kind of good swings being where they work, that then becomes the average one. So it's definitely doable, but it's hard to pitch it more than, say, if someone's working on the game more than, say, kind of 6 to 12 months ahead. Beyond that, we just can't tell what's going to happen. If you're making big swing changes, then you'll like to see, for example, quite strong dynamic loft deliveries. If you're changing the face rotation, delivering a stronger loft or a squarer face versus a higher loft and an open face, it's hard to predict how much that's going to change. So it can be dangerous on driver, for example. Woods is more challenging. Irons is easier, but the top end of the bag can be challenging if you're trying to pitch it too far in advance. So if you're doing that, I would then say if you're going through a swing change, get a chunk of that done first, because that gives us the best chance of getting it right for you moving forward. Yeah, but it is doable.
Crow is 3. G'day, Simon. How do you test gapping with long irons into hybrids and woods? Do you stock 3, 4 or 5 iron, or just extrapolate off fitting irons?
So most of the fitting is done based on the 6 iron, but we've got 4 irons in the majority of the relevant options. So we're not going to have an MB 4 iron because how often are you going to use it? But for example, take Titleist range, we've got T100, T150, T250. We then have some driving iron setups as well as all the hybrids and the lofted woods. So it's something that we can certainly test, and you'd look at what sort of flight are you looking for, forgiveness, carry profiles, and and work it out from there. But yeah, we've got 4 iron options in a good amount to be able to look at that gapping.
Wiley845, do any of the new drivers fit a draw player or someone who needs more spin?
Interesting you should say that. The one, if you are a low spin draw bias player, this is the one that the JPX1 driver, the Mizuno one, really suits. But the moment you open the face up, the spin kicks up. So certainly from what we've seen with it, if you're a fade bias player or the face is opening a little through impact, the spin can pop. However, if you play more of a kind of a push draw, kind of almost a kind of slightly shallower slinging action that can knuckle, that's when that head starts to sing. So that's certainly a good option. And generally speaking, the pings, either a GT1 that keeps a bit of flight on there because you can add weight to the back to keep some launch and spin onto it. Some of the pings, say for example 440 max, you can either go high loft, turn it down, that opens the face a bit, put the weight into the toe. They're pretty moderate on spin. But yeah, that and the Mizuno for that role, for a player who basically just hits a draw, that's where that Mizuno could be really good for you.
Yeah, I've always hit a draw, and the other Matt said, this is going to be perfect for you. I said, well, no, I don't play as much. I do fan it open. He's got spin will climb then. So
it's really interesting. There is a test that we've done that will be published video-wise in the coming weeks, where we've got the Mizuno drivers tested because they came in after we did the original driver test. And yeah, when we were doing our data test, it was really particular in terms of what worked for it. It's what we would call a very Asia spec, i.e. shallower profile draw bias player, lower spin player. It really worked for that. And I wonder whether this new face tech seems to be pretty good for ball speed. We've not seen exceptional ball speeds, but it's pretty good. But that could be something that they start to develop out and make it less that way. But for that kind of player, it looked pretty standout actually, in terms of not
Very
knuckling.
interesting. Stephen Forge 89. Evening, guys. Currently play a U505 2-iron with a Tor AD stiff shaft. Anytime I catch it a bit high in the face or toe side, it comes off super dead. Yeah. Which 2-iron would you suggest as a replacement?
So the U505 has got that whacking great sole, really deep weighted. So the lower you put the weight, the moment you catch it high in the face, essentially you're missing all the mass. So going to something a little less exaggerated in that respect should work well. So toe side, generally speaking, the Titleist has been good for toe side because they've got that tungsten weight out there, but you might find the T250U is better for that because it's a little bit narrower. High in the face, let's think any others. And they're all kind of going that low CGs, so you might actually find, if you tend to catch it high in the face, going slightly older in terms of model, go back a couple of models. And case in point, it was one of the players who won this week on tour. I think it was Mr. Bridgman, I think, plays an old TaylorMade TP driving iron, which is going way back. It's one of the UDIs, but it's a TP model, which is a good 10 years old. But the centre of gravity is going to sit a little higher in it. So you might find actually that go back a couple of models, whether it's what was the Strixon ZU? Which one did I play? 16, 18, same one that Scotty's playing. Something like that, where the weight just isn't quite as deep, actually is a little bit more reliable. Or T250U, where it's a little bit smaller, they've got weight in the toe side for that miss, but it just isn't quite as low CG.
Justin King 2369. I'm coming for a putter fitting in a few weeks. I've just bought another putter grip, 2-thumb brand, as it suits my prayer grip so much. Is it worth bringing it to the fitting to look at counterbalance? Presuming you don't have it on the putter, it sounds like. You can bring it with you. We do have a variation of grips upstairs that when during a fitting we can put on there to get feel and weighted. Obviously it depends on what you've currently got. If it's not already on your putter, again I'm presuming a little bit here, depending on what's already on your putter, it can make quite a big difference in swing weight. So yes, by all means bring it with you. I always like to see kind of what everyone's tinkering with or considering. And even if we don't have that particular grip upstairs, we'll find the closest in relation to shape, profile, weight, and then we can try it to see if it's worth putting on your current putter or another putter if we decide to go down that route. So yes, bring it with you. But yeah, get booked in. The diary's getting quite booked up in advance now for putter fittings. So do have a look.
Yeah, putter grips change weight a lot, from sort of 50 grams through to 100 and. I guess you could say full swing ones do with the Jumbo Maxes, but you see quite big variations in kind of standard putter grips.
Yeah, I mean, some of the brands are better in regards to versatility of weighting and stuff like that. The Scotties, Even Roll, they're probably the most versatile of all the putter setups that we've got. Everything from like neck design and a particular head through to shafts, through to grip. The whole thing is very good. But it makes a huge difference. If you were just to change the grip and put it on the same head as, a thin grip to a thick grip, it will feel different, it will play different. So sometimes we do need to take account for that. If you are someone who likes a thicker grip, then we may need to add weight to the head, and that might actually direct us in a certain direction of putters. But yeah, bring it in with you and we'll definitely have a look. I've lost track of where we are now. Here we are. TNEV KQ6GK. Hi, was fit into counterbalance driver shaft and elite, as was struggling with club head being left behind. Any better player iron heads and shafts that would suit to help with this issue? Okay. SS115 with driver.
Okay, so this is one of the times, head-wise, not necessarily. It depends really what launch and spin you're looking for. So, and forgiveness profile, but there are some brands are better at not doing heavier heads than others. Like Mizuno's base weight's a little bit lighter. Titleist do a lighter head weight. Obviously, Callaway and some others have got weights in the back. some of the Strixon heads have got a little bit heavier. But if you're high speed and looking for something stable but a bit counterbalanced, this is the one side where some of the LA shafts really do stand out. If you need a counterbalanced iron shaft, then they've got their new L series in the 120 is very, very strong. They do a 130 as well, which is absolutely brutal. But the 120 is a higher balance shaft. So potentially something like that. But there are things like dollar taper, the KBS dollar taper, KBS Tour, Tour V, they're all upper side balance-wise, Oban the CTs as well. So you do have options for something that's got a higher balance point. But if you need counterbalance, then that's when the LA shaft, if a 120 gram shaft works, that's when that L series really can help you.
Wonderful. Tom Middlehurst, 2458. Hi Simon, love the show and everything you guys do at Precision Golf.
Thank you very much.
Should your hybrid shaft be similar to your fairway wood shaft?
Hybrids are tricky ponies.
And also, a question a little bit further down for one on. If so, can you suggest an alternative to Mitsubishi C6 Blue in the stock TM QI4D hybrid shaft?
Okay.
Gifted an American Golf voucher. I'm wondering if I need a shaft fitting post-head purchase.
So, I mean, the hybrids are actually the most sensitive to little changes in dead weight and balance point of anything we fit. I'm not quite sure why. From a kind of a straight kind of levers physics point of view, it doesn't make sense why they should be more sensitive than anything else. However, they do tend to be sometimes the fiddliest to dial in. And so in the C6, if I remember rightly, you're in the 70 gram, I think. So you then want to be around the 80 odd gram mark in the hybrid shaft. Or if it's in the 65 gram in the fairway, then 75 odd in the hybrid. Should it match? Definitely maybe is the answer to that. If you swing it like your woods, then it's likely that the same kind of profile is going to work. But a lot of players with that shorter shaft length do start to move it differently compared to a fairway wood. So it becomes a little bit more of a downward strike and cover it a bit more and then can move more towards the irons in terms of profile. So it really is one of those, depending on how you move it, and Thomas has got a strong swing, so it might be actually that in a hybrid something just a little bit more towards the irons gives it a little bit more stability and a little bit more kind of, I guess, consistency. But yeah, if you're matching to the C6 that's in the QI4D, then if you're in the 60, which is 65 grams, then 75 grams. If you're in the 70, which is 70, 72 grams, then more the 80 gram mark would be where I would go.
Wonderful. Stephen Forge, 89. Would you ever consider doing an on-the-road fitting program and visit golf clubs? I mean, there's a lot of shafts on that wall. That's going to be tricky to...
It is, yeah. I mean, so one of the difficulties is that a lot of golf clubs, the pro sells equipment, so they don't really want us there. So it's something that's changing a little bit over here, but that's actually often the barrier over here is that actually, like for us, as Matt alluded to there, we need a workshop to be able to make some little tweaks and changes. We change grips during the fitting, so you've got to have a compressor there. Setting up a van to take the amount of kit that would make it effective enough to not water down what we do here and be like a second-rate version of it, that would be a very, very expensive tour van. We might as well just open a new studio, apart from the rent. The problem with it is that we end up watering down what we do that much, that it just, for me, in the way I want to do things, and I think James is, I can't speak for James, but we've been aligned for the last 21 years, is that's just not how we want to do it. I get that it means that we make it harder for people who are further away to come and see us, but ultimately we want to make sure we're doing things the best we can, and we can't do that on the road. So if a tip breaks, we've got to fix it. If we need to, we've got the option to, make some, either some running repairs if a tip fails or you cross thread something, the guys can switch it. We can switch grips over. We can, do some club work during the fitting if it's required while someone's here. But we've got just on that bit of wall, 2, 4, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22 batches of 22 shafts. And there are 7 more there, so 29 batches of 22 shafts. and then we got a load of stuff the other side of the wall as well. So the problem is that you wouldn't be getting the same level of services if you came here, and that's my issue with doing it, is that I just can't hand on heart give you the best service that I could if you came here.
That's a fair assessment. Jason Owen 8193. Good evening. In the near future, will there be a club fitting centre where the surface you hit off can be adjusted to different lies and slopes, as the only flat surface you can hit on is a tee box?
So it's an interesting one. Obviously, we have the platform golf stuff upstairs, and there's sort of like a showroom area for it there, and it's something we discussed with them. Ultimately, the fitting side. So what you're describing there matches better coaching. The complication from a fitting point of view, fitting-wise, we're fitting to the median, we're fitting to the middle ground. If we start fitting you for the extremes, well, what might work in one extreme best won't work in the other extreme because your balance is changing, pitcher swing is changing. We have to make sure from the club side of things that you can be as balanced as possible in the neutral scenario, which helps you get versatility either side of that. And where I can see it having a functionality is in more like wedge fittings. So do you change your delivery based on lies? That would be something where I would see it having an application which is actually something that could add to the fitting service itself. Do you dump it out when the ball's below your feet and put your weight back? But ultimately, it's actually impossible to optimize every single scenario because you don't have enough clubs in the bag. So we have to focus on the kind of the central part of it to give you the best chance of reaching out to the extremes in each direction and having the best chance of pulling off a shot. Because we're not fitting, we're fitting to how someone moves with the club in hand. As much as the numbers and the flights and the distances actually is, are you in control of the club? And that's going to put you in the best stead for all the other scenarios. But right now, I don't see a way of making that happen without making the fitting 6 hours long.
You've got to do it in a controlled environment. It's a repetitive swing. If you start changing line, you go, right, now we're going to go ball below your feet. Let's hit 10 shots. Now go ball. The swing itself is changing. And then when you go back to a flat lie, the chances are the swing will be different to what it was at the start. So you've got to try and maintain and manage as much as you can the variables when you're going through different options.
I think it's a really interesting, where I see it right now potentially having an impact is once you've got your clubs dialed in, then you can see what happens in different scenarios. Ball below your feet, what does it do to shot shape? What does it do to your club speed? What does it do to your low point? What does it do to your path and face to path numbers? And you can quantify that and then go out on the course and know, right, I know ball below my feet. So for example, I'm right-handed, very bottom hand dominant. I go chasing it, so ball below my feet goes left for me instead of everyone thinks it fades. Actually, for my delivery pattern, it goes the other way. But I'll know how far right to aim and commit to it.
Allows you to be more predictable when you do get on the golf course rather than taking that bit more time to adjust. I don't think there's a massive need from a fitting standpoint. Coaching 100%, but certainly for coaches that have studios like we do, it's one of those that allows you to not stand on the 8th hole taking up half an hour of play when you're trying to get a certain lie. And certainly from a putting standpoint, we can start to look at breaking putts and stuff like that, but from a fitting perspective.
I mean, I'm not going to say never, but I'm not convinced right now that it's actually to the benefit of the player. I think it causes more confusion. And ultimately, I'm not aware of it not having worked as things are now. I've not had someone come into me and go, I can hit it well off a flat lie, but I'm awful for ball above my feet, but brilliant below my feet. That's actually falls under technique and balance as well. So, however, I'm not going to say never.
A lot of the guys on tour do it off grass ranges in the States anyway. They're not going off sloping lies.
Yeah, actually, having been out to TPI in California, they play off a perfect dead flat. They fit off a perfect dead flat lie. So I'm sure it's something there will be debate and there'll be progression on over the next couple of years as it starts to become more and more doable. I don't see it being something that that we do as a mainstream thing right now.
Andrew Evans 3809. Hi gents, I'm a 7 handicap and over numerous Trackman sessions hit a 620 MB with better dispersion than T150s with no distance loss. Mist tends to be high on the face, slight heel side. Is this odd?
No. When you describe the strike point, that's why it works better for you. So when you get, I've got a T150 here. So looking at the back of this head, what they've done is they've got the channel cut out here, which takes weight out. You've got tungsten in the heel and the toe, which moves weight out, but also we've got the CG that sits lower. So when you get an MB, sorry, I should go back half a sentence. When you separate that, when you put high density tungsten out here, what it does to the sweet spot is it moves the sweet spot more central on the face. When you don't have any of that, because the weight of the hosel is 50, 60 grams, actually on a blade, the sweet spot sits slightly heel side and slightly higher. So actually, if your strike point is more high and heel, then actually you're finding the sweet spot of a blade style club more regularly. That is why you get efficiency and ball speed and consistency from it, because essentially the sweet spot on the T150 sits too much out to the toe.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
No.
Lil Biggs 73. Hey guys, question regarding the newer graphite design shafts.
Yep.
Are you able to test the IZ versus the GC and FI and describe the differences in feel and perhaps launch and spin? Thanks.
So I better get
off you go. Get walking. As Simon gets those, I'm going to see if there's any specific for me in putting. I think there was, Simon's had to go next door. There's a question here, which I know we answered a little while ago, not this evening, but a few weeks ago. Shaco79, do you offer fitting workshops where one can learn basics of fitting? We just don't have the capacity, really, to do it. We just don't.
Is this fitting training?
Yeah, it's something that people have asked for, but it's the capacity of being able to do it. And there are a few workshops out there that can do it, not that we run, but is it Golfsmith, I think, do one?
Well, Golfsmith, if they were around anymore, yeah,
Well,
Diamond Golf
Golf,
do
sorry.
one. Or certainly, yeah, they do a course on it. The challenge, as you said, the challenge for us is we are, especially this time, we're absolutely full bore. And our training, if we're training someone who's joining us, it is 2 months of training before they're even let loose in the bay, because it's not a case of watch a couple of fittings and right, you could get the basics of it. It's a lot of understanding of biomechanics, of levers, of how the shafts profiles work, how feel. It's going to be different player to player, but actually how that comes into it. There are lots of layers to it. Then you're looking at head styles. Why does one spin and flight more than another? Why would you use a toe? There are certain heads that are better at the toe than the heel. There are so many layers to it. It is not a quick process. And for us to do that, we would have to charge an inordinate amount to make it actually worth our while to do, because we just don't have spare capacity. Whilst we're a big operation within what we do within the UK as a single site, there are 16 of us who work here. Actually, we're still a medium-sized business, but running at kind of for the next few months at pretty much full capacity. So it's just, sadly, it's really hard for us to commit the time to the person coming in to do it justice for them and not cost us an awful lot of money. Sadly, from a business point of view, we just can't justify it. But it is a difficult one, trying to get into it. There are few avenues, which is a shame, actually. But it's much like coaching, it's a lot of reps to start to get proficient at it. It's an experience-based job, as is coaching. But but there are structures in place that you can go to learn coaching and to be mentored and to. Whereas in fitting, it is a bit niche. So yeah.
Yeah, I think like you said, certainly from coaching, I think a lot of it's learning to drive. You almost learn to pass your qualifications, and you learn more whilst you're doing it. It's a tricky one. Certainly, like I said, from fitting, there's fewer opportunities to do courses or pick it up.
Yeah.
Coaching, there's a few different qualifications, and if you specialise in something in particular, there's certain coaches that are now running courses to cover certain areas. But from a fitting perspective, yeah, it's challenging. Even, like you said, any other large fitting centre, they're all at full capacity. They don't have people sat around that are just on hand to do it.
And I think part of it is, I think fitting is still not necessarily seen as a full-time role. Most people coming into golf, they're coming into it, they're conscious of fitting, but they're not wanting to do it full-time. A lot of pros or players coming into golf as a industry are more coaching oriented, playing or coaching, and so fitting is maybe not given, and maybe the resources aren't there exactly for that reason. But it's something that it's not something we find people wanting to necessarily fit full time.
It'd be nice to see the industry change.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get started on these.
I'm going to start with the GC simply because we're going between. We're just changing over our adapter system at the moment, so I'm going to go with this one first, and I can switch the other system on for the other two. So GC in terms of profile, it's fairly stable in the butt section, neutral and midsection, got a bit more tip response. So it's a fairly crisp feeling shaft actually. It's a shaft that we've done really well with, particularly fairways. But I would say this is a shaft where if you want a little bit of launch, a little bit of help just getting it up off the ground, up off the tee, but not kind of soft feeling in the tip, I think GC is a very good shaft. Tends to be, if you're a little quieter with the hands, more rotational because it doesn't swing too much in the bottom end. So for me, I play a more tip-heavy setup, so I've just dragged that into the drink on the left. But gives you a little bit of pop through the tip section, a little bit of life in it, but isn't loose down the club head end. But in terms of, for the GC6, I'm testing the 6s in each of these, it's a sort of 63, 64 gram shaft, but still gives you a bit of tightness through the shaft. So one that we've done really well with, based on it is that little bit more stable than some of their other options, without being, it's not kind of VF-like and brutal. So I'm going to go into IZ next. Just put this in there.
I actually played the IZ a few years ago in driver, actually. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so IZ or IZ, depending on where you're based, is relative to GC. It's got a little bit more response in the tip. It's not quite as stiff in the butt section. It's got a little bit similar, a little bit more responsiveness in the tip. In principle, should be a little bit higher spin. In principle, so you've got a similar kind of weight, 64, 65 grams. And this is one of the difficulties with graphite design, is that there are a lot of similar shafts. So, but we are starting to see with the FI, which we're going to move on to next, I think they're starting to fill out the options rather than them all being fairly responsive, mid kind of shafts, which they have been in the past. But IZ, again, great materials, response through the tip. Definitely a softer, smoother feeling shaft. You can feel that tip end kick a little bit more. There's a bit more crispness to the GC than the IZ, but otherwise, relatively similar shaft. A little bit more spin on that one. Now I did drag the GC left, so you might see a couple of hundred revs different spin on it. But the IZ definitely swings, there's a bit more to the bottom end to it. Now the FI, I've been very impressed with so far. I think this one splits the difference between the VF and the GC. So VF is very stout, sits up there at like the 60, the VF 6 in a stiff is sort of 66, 67 grams, and then sits up there at 69, 70 in the X's. This one's just a little bit less at 66, 67 in the stiffer flexes. So fairly strong, definitely stable in the tip section. So it's kind of, mid to stiff, very stiff. Now the VF goes very stiff, incredibly stiff. So it kind of amps it up a little bit. So this sits in the middle between the GC and the VF. Looks great, quite frankly. Has a little more guts to it. So for me, I've got to work a bit harder than those other two to get this one away. But, so I've launched that hard because I've had to go after it a little bit more to get it through. But just shores everything up and stabilizes it. So I've kind of popped that up a little bit, but definitely more of a hitter shaft. If you want basically close to VF stability, but a bit more feedback, just sort of a toned down VF, this could be a great shaft for you.
I wonder when we're going to get a comparison video. We ain't got you hitting many shots tonight so far.
I mustn't forget the other question I got asked on my phone.
Yes.
Someone emailed
We are starting to run out a little bit of time, so we'll try and whiz through some of these. Freddie M6643, thoughts on M grind versus low bounce K grind in a 60? T and D don't work for me for opposite reasons.
Okay, so M has a little bit more up and over progression. So if you're someone who wants to have a bit of bounce but then opens the face up quite a bit, then the M gives you that versatility to have a little bit to play with, but that back edge grind allows it, when you open it up, just to sit a little bit tighter. The low K has shallower but wider profile. So if you open it, that back edge really kicks up. So if you're someone who doesn't really open it, wants it to kind of scoot through a little bit neater, and you're not overly steep onto it, low K is good. If you're someone who gets a little bit steeper and a little bit more of a divot onto it and you open the face up more, M grind's better for that.
3 Blue CJ. Evening, fellas. Are there any particular head shaft combos from the current 2026 lineup that suits a predominantly low in the face strike pattern with driver? Thanks.
So heads that are shaft is going to be just whatever times best and lets you stabilize your strike as much as possible. So there won't be a best shaft for you, but head-wise, the ones that have been performing really well, QI4D core has been really good low on the face. Ball speed consistency across the face has been great, and spin stability low on the face has been very good. I would say that the Titleists have always been good low on the face, but I think the spin stability of the TaylorMade has been exceptional there. But ball speed wise, quite a lot of them are good across the face now, but the spin fluctuations, particularly low, that's where, for what I've seen in the base so far this year, the QI4D has stood out for that.
EDR Performance. Love the channel. Playing KBS Dollar Taper 120 in ZXi7, 88 swing speed, but want to go to Graphite. Axiom 125X 2 boardy, 105X I can't time. Good options for 110 to 120 gram stiff graphite, please.
So there's a sort of fairly broad range. I mean, the steel fibers at 110 are good. They're stable and balance-wise aren't overly dissimilar to your dollar tapers. It's not like the LA is going to be too back-weighted. 115 gram at that kind of balance. Let's think. Acura do the ICWT at the 115s. They're not going to be bad. And the TZIs are going to swing a little bit more tip-heavy. Aren't too many. I'd say the steel fibers are probably the best ones, but they are going to be that little bit lighter. So, yeah, in terms of matching and keeping stability, you're going to struggle at the 120 gram range to find anything that's going to match too well, because they're going to get pretty harsh in graphite at that weight because there's a lot of material. So, yeah, steel fiber 110s for me.
Wonderful. Golf Nerd 3, what do you think of Jimmy Walker going to Axiom 75 reg? What's the biggest weight change you've seen or fitted?
So Jimmy going to that weight, I don't think he'll be in them that long, because for someone who at that level has played a much, much heavier shaft for a long time, his timing is going to be all off. I think it's something that, so take Adam Scott when he tried autoflex. He made it work in the driver. He hit it enough times to make it work in the driver, but it buggered up his swing in the 3-wood. And I think there's a danger that someone can want to change something and make it work, and then find when you're trying to play shots on the golf course that it just doesn't work. So I'd be amazed if that stays in the bag long. Actually had a big change on Saturday for someone. It was the other way. He came in with a set of his dad's old TaylorMade irons with a 65 gram graphite, and went in the Project X Red 110 gram. That was a pretty sturdy change. But then there have been times where we've been in a dynamic gold and gone into, say, a I-80 steel fibre or a TZI 85. So there have been 50 odd gram weight changes, and they did one on Saturday. So that's probably on the upper end of things, I would say.
Yeah. 1975 Stevo, been playing steel shafts for many years, had a fitting, and they suggested graphite. I associate graphite for senior or female players, which I'm neither. Could more people move to graphite as tech evolves?
Yes, I mean, the one thing that steel still really works, and so there's a reason why we are seeing more graphite shafts out there. There is more acceptance of graphite. Just say some of those viewpoints about, actually graphite to weight is way stiffer than steel. But the problem then comes at the upper weight ranges that they end up bawdy and dead. And so actually, if I grab, let's just see, I've got like 100 gram. I'm going to get a 100 gram graphite shaft to display something here. So we've got 100 gram steel shaft. If you look at the wall thickness there. And now a 100 gram graphite shaft. It has a ton more material, which is why it is that much more stable. But when you've got a lot of material, they end up like pokers. So actually, there's a lot of relevance of steel still, but if you're looking to vibration dampen, then graphite will help with that. There's a lot of versatility to graphite, but then the cost is higher. So there are pros and cons to both. Ultimately, from a fitting point of view, it's just a case of finding the right one for you. And there are multiple layers to what is, if you've got arthritis or something, then anything you do to take some of the sting out can be a good thing, but you might have to compromise a little bit based on your best days. You might have to rein it back a little bit to account for the days you're feeling off a little bit. So the answer is, the short answer is yes, there are a lot more graphite options. Yes, more players are probably relevant for graphite than they think they are. And if you're going to test stuff out, be open-minded. What's best is best. There have been a lot of tour players who play graphite over the years, and we will see more and more coming, but it will still be a minority at the high speeds.
Yeah. Ian Linfoot back on. Do you find customers gapping their bags specifically for their home club? I'm looking for a club after driver that provides longest total distance into wind. Mini driver or UDI iron to keep it low.
Yeah, I think ultimately your base bag should be set up for where you play the majority of your golf. And if you play most of your golf on a links, for example, or in a really windy scenario where you're flighting into a green and stopping it, or you're having a specific kind of having a specific shot type that benefits where you play your most golf is definitely worth considering at the very least, and probably worth having. If you play a variety of courses and a variety of conditions, then versatility is definitely key. So if you have a very specific home course, that there is a strong advantage to having a particular flight, be it a flat bullet on a links course, then get that set up. Because if you go somewhere else, you can strategize anywhere else, or the extravagant ways, have another club set up for inland golf and one for coastal golf, for example, in the UK. But yes, set your bag up for where you play the majority of your golf.
Definitely.
I'm going to do this question.
Yeah, I was going to remind you to do that.
Emailed this, and I don't want to miss it. It was by Rogue Garage Jim. So Monday Live question, if you could cover this on the Monday Live, would be great. After 10 years playing Callaway Apex CF16, very good heads, with Project X 6.0s, I've just switched to Strixon ZXI 7 irons, Project X 6.5. For someone making that kind of change, especially with an increase in shaft weight and stiffness, how would you recommend structuring the transition, time on the range versus on-course play, and how long before going out on the course? How long should it realistically take before the new clubs start to feel natural? Thanks in advance. So you've got about a 5 gram change in shaft weight. Heads structurally a little bit different. If it's a good change, then it shouldn't take, that isn't a massive change. That shouldn't take very long at all. I would say a couple of practice sessions before they become playable to take out in the course is just knowing what your distance changes are. If you're having to work harder than that for that kind of change, then I would then get it checked out. Just make sure, go back to where you got fitted from and got them from, and just say, look, kind of just double check these over, because realistically, it's not It's not this 50 gram change we've just been talking about. It's a 5 gram change. And yes, it's stiffer, but not enough for you to notice. It's the weight that you're going to see more than anything else. So yes, the finer controls on flight and control and distance and shot making from the CF16s to the ZXi7s will change, but the base nuts and bolts aren't that different. So if you're struggling, then go back and have just a cross-reference on that spec, because that shouldn't take you very long at all. I would say you should pretty much be able to take those out in course and have them playable straight away.
We've got about 12 questions left. It's just hit 7 o'clock, so we'll try and
fire through a few of them.
Yeah, definitely. Golf Node 3, what are some most popular neutral balance mid-kick driver wood shafts out there?
So GC is very good. I would say the Acura, the GX 100 range are very good. I would say actually the Ventus Red isn't that tip heavy. The Velocore Plus. If we look at kind of mid-kick neutral balance, I would also say we're kind of peeking over there. Helps to refresh the mind. I guess mid-kick, the Tensei Blue, but it's fairly tip stable. Mitsubishi C6, that's very good. And VA Composites Villain.
The Yorkshire Blade, a regular to the channel, 105 to 108 club speed, 2.6 spin, launching at 12. Mm-hmm. Which driver would you recommend for distance, consistency, and accuracy?
So there's an angle of attack that isn't in there that would be useful to know. Based on that, right, for distance, you'd probably find, okay, this could be completely wrong, but I'll chuck it out there. If you haven't got an exaggerated angle of attack, then I would say you're going to be doing well with something like either a GT2 or the QI 4D core model weight forward, because we want to bring that spin down just a touch just to get maximum distance. Consistency-wise, to be fair, the QI 4D with the weight back is going to be good. But if you're looking purely for consistency, the 440K ping, we've seen great results out of that, but you might loft that down just a hair. We've got a couple, let's do 2 more.
2 more, right, let's go 4.
Ones that aren't really long.
I'm trying to think of ones that aren't going to involve getting clubs out.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Where has my sanity gone? That's definitely a golfer.
That's a great golf.
We're going to go for that just for the name. Really enjoy the channel. Super detailed content.
Thank you.
Question about swing weight in specialty wedges as it relates to feel, optimized flight, and spin. Recommended weight progression? Question mark.
So often you find someone will go a little heavier for the partial swings. So generally speaking, you'd maybe between wedges, it's probably less than half a point. If you've got the same shaft in and you're just going, say, from 56 to a 60, 2.3 of a point heavier. But if you go up in weight by, say, 10 grams into those wedges, if you're, for example, I play my gap wedge 50 degree with Oban CT115 that's about D2.5, D3, and then I go up to D4, 4.5 in a Modus 120 in my 56 and 60. So it varies. If you're playing the same shaft, half a point. If you're going up in weight, certainly about a swing weight point. That is a very broad generalisation, but that's where I'd go.
Let's do one more then. Simon, what are you liking more? 2025 T150 or 2026 Mizuno M13, and do they compare well?
Do compare well. From a feel point of view, so a couple of little things. From a feel point of view, the Mizuno head, a little bit softer. Stability at impact, the T150 is really hard to beat with the tungsten heel and toe. It really feels like it stays with it. Seeing a little bit more launch out of the M13. Both really good for ball speed. Very comparable heads. I think they're both really good tech, and we're going to do a lot of both of them. But yeah, if you wanted something to feel a bit nicer than Mizuno, if you wanted a hair more stability heel and toe side, the T150.
There we go.
There we go. Great.
There's a few that we couldn't get through tonight.
Sorry, we couldn't get through all of them.
Getting a little bit earlier next week.
I think I lingered too on some of the questions. I will note to self, be quicker next time. But thanks again for all the input. It's as that course is PGA National this week. It's probably not called the Honda Classic anymore, is it? But
no.
Cognizant Classic or something like that.
Yeah.
But we're into the Florida swing, which means getting closer to the Masters. Less than 50 days to go now.
Yeah, I saw that.
Brilliant. And Tiger's not denying that he won't be there in some shape or form. Probably a practice round, but great he was there for Thursday, Friday.
Yeah.
So have a great week. Enjoy the golf coming up. See you again next Monday.